The Essequibo River. Huge, untamed, and unexplored. 1,000 kilometers of treacherous rapids, huge waterfalls, and wild animals. Only the strongest survive in these waters. Yet it's a wildlife paradise. People crowd the busy delta, a melting pot of races and cultures for centuries. And further inland lies the wild south, where indigenous people still live on the Essequibo's banks. Now, filmmakers Marion Perlman, Raina Bergomas and young Sandy are on a mission to discover the mysterious source of the mighty Essequibo. This is a journey into the unknown, a daring attempt to find the origin of Guyana's great Essequibo River. It begins at the enormous delta, spanning more than 60 kilometers and dotted with islands. 70 kilometers inland, the river is already several kilometers wide. The locals claim there are 365 islands between here and the Atlantic Ocean, one for each day of the year. This is the historic heart of Guyana, where European settlers arrived in the 1600s and left their mark. The Dutch built Fort Zeelandia to protect their lucrative plantations from military incursions by the French, the Spanish, and the English. Until 1814, the Dutch colony Essequibo was governed from Fort Island. Its remains a poignant reminder of Guyana's colonial past. Sturdy ferries keep up the connections between Bartica, the Essequibo's many islands, and the mainland, while motorized speedboats offer a faster alternative. For the camera crew, this is the best way to explore the delta. The water here is brown and brackish. It's a mix of fresh river water and the Atlantic salty seawater. Perfect conditions for tiger sharks. Although slimmer than great whites, they're just as long and no less efficient and ruthless killers. The tiger stripes on their backs are perfect camouflage. It's tough to pick out the threatening shape of a tiger shark in the light and shade cast by the water surface. It makes them all the more deadly. A huge whale shark glides through the murky waters of the Essequibo Delta. Over 13 meters long and weighing in at several tons, this is the largest fish on Earth. Despite its size, it lives off the smallest creatures in the water, plankton. So unlike the tiger shark, this enormous water monster is harmless for humans. Above water, the boat speeds past an impenetrable green thicket. Mangroves, saltwater specialists able to thrive in the brackish delta waters. Stunning scarlet ibises live here in their hundreds. The mangroves offer them precious protection, and the soft mud at the water's edge harbors plenty of food. But the mangroves are far more than just animal sanctuaries. The islands are under constant attack from the water masses scouring past them. Mangrove roots break the power of the waves and firmly anchor the soil. Where they're missing, the water soon turns into a brown sludge where every wave carries away precious soil. Mostly red and black mangroves thrive here. Their protective power becomes obvious from the air. Each island is surrounded by a dense belt of mangroves. While the red mangrove weaves impenetrable root thickets, the black mangrove sends air roots to the surface that penetrate the ground like spikes. Mangrove crabs live among them. They're important. By burying and consuming leaf litter, they keep much of the forest's precious energy inside the system. And while out looking for food, the tangled mangrove roots provide precious shelter from aerial attack. There's another delta resident of special interest for the crew. Manatees, also known as sea cows, come here to graze. With a bit of patience, it's even possible to entice the large marine mammals right up to the boat. Up to 4 meters long and weighing in at up to a ton, these gentle giants are related to elephants. And to sustain this massive size, they may consume around 90 kilos of food a day. Like other marine mammals, manatees too have to come to the surface to breathe air, despite being completely waterbound. They communicate through touch and sound, and although generally loners, cows and their calves maintain very close bonds. Their prehensile lips are not only important communication tools, but they're also essential for grazing. They help manipulate and tear aquatic plants, mangrove leaves and grasses lining the riverbank. Dense, horny ridges on the roofs of their mouths make up for the lack of incisors and help them grind plants into a digestible pulp. But sea cows are under threat. Increasing motorboat traffic is putting them at risk. Injuries and deaths from collisions and propellers take their toll, and their numbers are in decline along the Guyanese coastline. Where mangrove forests are intact, the land behind them is protected and safe. A natural haven is born. A bewildering variety of animals have made this twilight world between wet and dry their home. The mudflats offer plenty of food, and extensive shallow water pools are bountiful hunting grounds. There's something here for everyone. Prey is easy to come by, but manipulating it with a cumbersome beak is a matter of practice. A heron is here to gorge on fish and shellfish. A crab makes for a bite-sized snack. Four-eye fish stick together in large schools. They let the waves carry them ashore. Not a problem for these ingenious fish. They use their pectoral fins to push themselves along on solid ground. But danger is everywhere. To survive here, they have to be vigilant. Their split eyes allow them to keep watch above and below water at the same time. A mere shadow is enough to send them scuttling and riding the waves to safety. The skies above are full of danger. Keeping together in large groups also gives them an element of safety in numbers. It dramatically increases the survival chances of each individual. The northern edge of the Essequibo Delta is even wilder. It's a plane ride away. Even from 3,000 meters up, the mouth of the Essequibo is too big to take it all in. More than once, it seems as if they've reached the other side of the river. But then it turns out to be just another island. Signs of human life quickly disappear. The land and the coastline become visibly wilder. It's a reminder of what it would have been like before the new settlers changed the coastline forever. Their destination? Shell Beach. Over time, meter-high banks of broken shells have been ground into sand by the relentless onslaught of the waves. Its pristine condition has made Shell Beach an ideal sanctuary for sea turtles. Many of them come here to lay their eggs. This leatherback is huge. They can grow well over 2 meters long, and the largest ever found weighed almost a ton. They are the biggest of all turtles. It's here to lay the foundations for the next generation. Record holders in the water, with dives down to an incredible 1,300 meters, they're clumsy on dry land. Their paddle-like legs may be ideal for life in the water, but on this beach they make only poor transport accessories and inefficient digging tools for the excavation of the nest. Thick, slimy tears protect their eyes from sun and heat during their long ordeal. Leatherbacks are the only marine turtles without a hard shell. Instead, the tough, leathery skin on their backs connects several loose, bony plates to protect their soft insides. Finally, she can return to her element, water. At certain times of year, countless sea turtles visit this stretch of Guyana's coastline to lay their eggs in the sand. 140 kilometers of unspoilt nature all the way from Venezuela to the northern edge of the Essequibo Delta. Apart from leatherbacks, there are green sea turtles and even very rare hawksbills and Atlantic Ridley sea turtles. At dusk, land crabs populate the beach. A light-colored female tentatively picks her way across the sand. She's left the safety of her burrow to get to the sea. a precarious undertaking. And she's not alone. But these crabs are loners and meet their relatives with suspicion. They may have a mainly vegetarian diet, but occasionally smaller specimens of their own kind also find their way onto the menu. There's purpose to their outing. A few weeks ago, when the weather and phase of the moon were just right, it was mating season. The females have been carrying the fertilized eggs around with them ever since. But now it's time to release the larvae into the sea. When night falls, the beach changes. A new shift of wildlife arrives. Under cover of darkness, a green turtle digs her nest just above the waterline. A long-winded ordeal. The mothers always return to the very same beach where they themselves hatch to lay their eggs. Every season, each female produces several clutches of eggs. The size of each clutch depends on the animal's age. On average, there are 100 to 200 eggs per nest. It sounds like a lot, but only about 1% of these baby turtles will make it through to adulthood. The last task, carefully covering the nest with sand. The mother's work is done. She leaves the sun to incubate the eggs, and her babies will have to fend for themselves from the word go. Procreation is a slow process for green turtles. The females only mate once every 2 to 4 years. And when they do, it costs them a lot of energy to dig their nests and lay their eggs. Just before 6 a.m., the black of night makes way to the first rays of the sun. Underwater, the exhausted green turtle mother makes her way back to the open sea. They often travel several thousand kilometers between their feeding grounds and their nesting beaches. But she's tired and dangerously exposed. A tiger shark has her on his radar. He cautiously circles the weakened mother. The killer makes a careful approach. He senses an easy meal. Adult green turtles don't have many enemies, but a tiger shark is one of them. There's nothing she can do to defend herself. The feast soon attracts more and more hunters and scavengers. In no time at all, they've torn her apart. All 100-odd kilos of her. The drama in the sea soon attracts opportunists from the sky. Seagulls. They delicately pluck small morsels from the water, all the while keeping a careful eye out for the sharks. Seagulls, too, could become an easy meal for them. The crew have witnessed the spectacle from their boat, but now it's time to leave Shell Beach behind. The Essequibo is one of South America's 7 great rivers. It drains all of Guyana and even parts of Venezuela. And it harbors the team's next destination, a unique natural spectacle, best approached by air.
Yeah.
Major Weeks is a pilot with the Guyana Defense Forces. He'll be their pilot.
What I want to do is...
But the weather is reason for serious concern.
Weather conditions. Right now, the only thing we got positive is that in the vicinity of Madia, is okay. Right? But looking this way, they still see cloud cover and the mountains visibility is not that good right now.
Okay.
For sure right now until we get in there. Look, I need him ahead of me.
Ahead?
Yeah, I want him ahead of me. He could give me an idea where they're coming in. So I don't want to push that right now, because we created for fuel to get in there, get the work done in Kaieteur, and then get back out.
So we can't...
No, we can't do that. Sorry, Rainer.
The plan is for the more robust Islander plane to fly ahead with most of the equipment and report back on the weather conditions. The helicopter will follow slowly. The flight will be both long and dangerous. Nothing can be left to chance. The route takes them from Timeri across the Demerara River towards the Essequibo. The 2 rivers are separated by extensive freshwater swamps. Palm trees dot the surface. They're able to survive where other trees would succumb to the waterlogged conditions. Finally, they've reached the Essequibo. The helicopter follows its course upriver. Guyana is not called the land of many waters for nothing. Their destination lies 150 kilometers inland on the Potaro River, a side arm of the mighty Essequibo. At the mouth of the Mazaruni River, the pilot finally leaves the Essequibo and turns off across dense forests. This will be the most risky part of the journey. There's hardly anywhere for the pilot to put the helicopter down safely in an emergency. To make matters worse, the weather deteriorates further. The flight is rough. Filming is the last thing on their minds now. Below them, rainforest stretches all the way to the horizon. Somewhere in those mountains lies the Kaieteur National Park, where they're headed. The area surrounding the national park bears the scars of mining operations. Guyana is rich in gold and diamonds. At least the clearings offer landing opportunities to the pilot. Landing on the rocks along the river would be far riskier. And it's completely impossible over the forest itself. Meanwhile, the Islander has taken a much more direct route and has long left the bad weather behind. It's approaching its destination, the Kaieteur Falls. Unloading the machine is a priority, but it all has to be carried by hand. Even each 200-kilo fuel canister has to be lifted out. But then Marianne can finally take a first look at the waterfalls and their surroundings, guided by a ranger. Since it's so remote, very little has changed here in the last 140 years since its discovery. Kaieteur is special. The huge falls have created a unique environment where plants and animals found hardly anywhere else on Earth thrive. There are countless epiphytes, plants that live off others, usually amongst the treetops. But there's a crucial difference. Here, they grow not just on trees, but also on the ground. Some reach gigantic sizes. They're as tall as trees and form small forests. This endemic kind of bromeliad grows several meters tall. Small pools of water form in the center of each plant, habitat for other plants, and the very rare golden tree frog of Guyana. So far, it's only ever been found within an area of just 20 square kilometers around Kaieteur. Its entire life cycle takes place within these huge bromeliads surrounding the falls. One reason for the special flora and fauna around here is the ground. It's cold, hard rock. But it's covered with a green carpet of vegetation. Anything growing here must have special adaptations. Like Brocchinia reducta, a member of the pineapple family. It grows on barren mountaintops and along the Kaieteur Falls. It has a special trick up its sleeve to find enough nutrients in this barren place. Kaieteur Ranger Reuben Williams shares this bizarre plant's secret.
And it's called dusted bromeliad.
Why?
See this here, these white looking thing here on this leaf here? This is what attract insects to come around for this plant here to feed on. So when they come here, this bromeliad here, they don't die. They try to feed on this here, they fall right in here. And when they fall in there, they don't get out. The edge of this leaf, it's very slippery. So when they try to crawl out, they don't get out. Yeah, well, you see this insect here now? This is what they do. Get trapped in here. And when they get trapped, this plant here digests the insects and it becomes like sand. Look here. See?
Yeah.
A few months from now, it will start feeding again, eating all the mosquitoes. That's why up here at Kaieteur you don't have any mosquitoes.
It means this plant doesn't depend on the ground to keep it alive. It kills for a living instead. The insects provide everything it needs. This is one of the few bromeliads that have developed into a carnivorous plant. But it's not the only meat-eating plant at Kaieteur. A local variety of sundew, just a few millimeters across, forms entire fields of killer plants. Sweet, sticky secretions glisten on its leaves, irresistible treats for passing insects. Their tragic deaths sustain the plants. Eventually, the helicopter too approaches the waterfall. The weather continues to be tricky. The long canyon of the Potaro River disappears in the mist. Finally, the waterfall comes into view. Its waters plunge 250 meters into the chasm below. These are amongst the most powerful waterfalls in the world. 5 times higher than the Niagara and 3 times the Iguazu Falls. They've arrived, a relief after the tricky flight. But there's no time to lose. Rainer and Young immediately set off to join Marion in exploring the area around the falls. Access is on foot. The heavy cameras have to be carried to the edges of the falls. Being afraid of heights is not an option here. This work takes nerves of steel. At this time of year, the falls carry relatively little water. The crew can approach the precarious edges with relative ease. Just a short while ago, the rocky ledge that now serves as a vantage point was still flooded. Now they can move about freely. They're so close they can almost touch the falling torrent, even if it means balancing on steep cliff edges. The name Kaieteur has been taken from the language of the Patamona Indians, the Old Man Falls. The natural spectacle of the entire Potaro River tumbling across a rocky ledge 250 meters into a gorge is hard to beat. The Kaieteur Falls are far more than just waterfalls. They create their very own microclimate and support a unique habitat. A colony of caciques has found a home in the trees next to the river. Their noisy squabbles are audible even over the thundering water masses. Their calls are incredibly varied, and often they're imitating sounds they've heard somewhere else. The smaller females are responsible for weaving intricate basket nests with their long beaks. They alone decide where it is to be built and often fight other females for the best places. But a toucan could be bad news. It's watching the colony carefully, selecting its target. Then he begins his destructive work. Well-aimed blows tear the nest apart. The caciques watch helplessly. The toucan is more than double their size, but perhaps a surprise attack might deter the killer. Success, or so it seems. But the thief is not deterred so easily. An easy meal like this is not to be wasted. The young chick is almost ready to fledge, but he doesn't stand a chance against the killer. The prize is more than a quick gulp for the toucan, and this is not the place to enjoy this feast in peace. A sad loss for the colony, since each nest usually harbors just a single chick. The Potaro River's unsteady water levels mark the passing of the seasons. When water levels are low, grassy islands emerge in its waters. As the usual pressure from the raging torrent declines, the grasses can finally grow tall and begin to flower and seed. Above the falls, the green islands sit next to the grey surfaces of dry rocks, usually hidden beneath water. The watercourse narrows. Rapids, normally hidden by excess water, suddenly emerge. But the water plants only have a short window of time before the river will swell again. They have to reproduce quickly. Spectacled caiman also profit from the changes in the river. They use the newly emerged small islands as perfect basking and vantage points. And when water levels are low, more fish concentrate in smaller areas. It makes them easy pickings for the caiman. It's as if they're simply waiting for prey to jump right into their waiting jaws. But sometimes it's enough to swipe sideways with speed. Meanwhile, Young and the rangers have organized a dugout to cross the treacherous rapids above the falls. From here, they can keep a close eye on the other shore. That's where a royal palm tree is fruiting. It attracts countless parrots. The egg-shaped sweet fruit are both nutritious and delicious. Green-winged macaws can't get enough of them. Using their strong beaks, they delicately pluck the fruit from the tree. But sharing the bounty meets with resistance. They all want to make the most of the fruit, while stocks last. It may be some time before they find another opportunity to gorge themselves. Green-winged macaws are hardly ever seen alone. They partner up for life. A hollow tree makes for a perfect nest. The chicks stay here for around 100 days, and until they're ready to leave, they're cared for by both parents. Macaws are very sociable birds and spend much of their time playing and grooming to reaffirm bonds. Out in the open, the birds are on high alert. You can never be too careful out here. That's why staying in pairs or in larger groups has its advantages. Food is high in the agenda for many locals. A family of spider monkeys is looking for their next meal in the forest. They weigh about 9 kilos, but nevertheless make their way through the trees with easy grace. Their long tail comes in handy. It's prehensile and works like a fifth hand. As strict vegetarians, fruit, flowers and leaves are on the menu. They search for their next meal in small bands during the day, but they stay in touch with the other bands in their colony by calling to them. This baby is dependent on its mother for almost 18 months. It learns everything from her, including that it's best to hide when a harpy eagle flies. The harpy is the most dangerous treetop hunter here. But it'll take at least another year before this chick will join its parents in the sky. Until then, mother and young are entirely dependent on the father's hunting prowess. He's hard pushed to keep them fed. No sooner has he delivered his latest offerings than he's sent out for more. The growing chick needs to be fed at least 3 times a day to sustain its rapid growth rate. The mother carefully rips smaller bite-sized morsels from the kill. It'll be almost 2 years before the chick will be able to fend for itself. Meanwhile, the crew reassembles at the Kaieteur Falls to capture a very special spectacle. At dusk, hundreds of white-colored swifts make their way back to their nests, behind the waterfall. This is where they come to sleep and to care for their young. The crew is ready. The swifts will begin to fly through the watery curtain, concealing their roost site at any moment now. The Kaieteur Falls protect their nests from raptors and other thieves. Huddled together in small groups, they cling to the precarious cliffs. Nothing will get through this to attack their colony now. As night falls, all the swifts have disappeared behind the falling torrent. But at dawn, the Kaieteur is transformed. Strong gusts whip up fog and water spray and fill the canyon with mist. The sun is not yet strong enough to burn through the shroud of water droplets. But the irritating fog has its uses. It's what keeps the plants and animals around the falls alive, even in places where it seems almost impossible for them to eke out a living. Only some are hardy enough to withstand the unpredictable winds around the falls. Mosses and lichen cling closely to rock surfaces near the water. Larger plants follow. There's hardly a crack or crevice without green. The ample supply of water makes it possible for plant life to thrive. The rising moisture sustains a cloud forest in the valley and on the slopes. The constant mist gives rise to a host of survival specialists. But the steep, slippery rocks make it almost impossible to reach the areas right next to the waterfall. Unless, of course, you can fly. Hummingbirds live mainly on energy-rich nectar. It gives them enough energy to beat their wings at a breathtaking rate of 40 to 50 beats a second. Relative to their body size, that makes them the fastest vertebrates on Earth. The forest above the gorge is like something out of a fairy tale. Marion explores the forest around Johnson's View. She's looking for something. Small trees grow on and around the big boulders here in bizarre formations. The leaf litter on the ground is a perfect hideout for the fertile ants, a pit viper that packs a punch. Its venom is lethal. They're common in these parts, even if their perfect camouflage means they're rarely seen. A red howler monkey is far more conspicuous. But the team is after something even more striking: the flamboyant cock of the rock. The moist, rocky forest around Kaieteur is ideal habitat for it. And once spotted, the male's bright orange plumage is hard to miss. In the mating period, this extravagant look is very important. It's to impress the much more drab-looking females. After all, it's up to them who gets to mate and who doesn't. Back at the ranger station, Major Weeks and his assistant officer get the helicopter ready. The fuel load has to be just right. They want to get as close as possible to the raging torrent of the Kaieteur Falls. It's risky, and the load on board has to be calculated carefully.
We want to film the islander from the air. This means we have to take...
Our plane is much faster than this.
Yeah, but it has to slow down.
Okay.
And we have to fly plane with...
Last discussions on the ground.
Yeah.
Then it's time to get going.
That's our rule. How wide is this thing?
3 cameras are on board to capture the best views of the imposing falls from the air. A serious challenge, since all communications have to be signals. The noise of the engine is too loud for a conversation. But it works. Kaieteur Falls is an incredible sight from the air. Its sheer size and enormous drop are hard to match. The Kaieteur Falls is one of the great natural wonders in the barely known river system of the mighty Essequibo.